Apps can do a lot of cool things. You could order dinner, gamble on your favorite team, and track your health. You could even get a mortgage. One click and you can be approved. I'm not sure by who or what country they're in. You deserve more from the mortgage industry. At AnyMac Home Mortgage, we believe in the need for live human interaction during a very complex process. The kind of service and guidance which an app simply can't provide. Our customers are more than credit scores and income documents. They're individuals and families who live in and strengthen our communities. Their story is our story, and that story begins in a home. Chris Sawyer is an expert on providing superior customer service and in meeting the mortgage needs of current and future home buyers. With over 18 years of experience in the industry, Chris is able to help customers migrate through the home buying and home financing process by using his wealth of knowledge as a well-qualified mortgage professional. And best of all, Chris is located in Cromwell, Connecticut, where he has helped hundreds of clients in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island make their dreams of home ownership a reality. Visit chrissawyer.any-mac.com. Email him at csawyer@any-mac.com or give him a call, 860-878-8730.
Chris Sawyer, NMLS number 39345, corporate NMLS number 338923. AnyMac Home Mortgage is an equal housing lender. American Neighborhood Mortgage Acceptance Company, LLC. DBA AnyMac Home Mortgage. LoFi Direct. Connecticut First Mortgage Correspondent. License lender. Broker number ML 338923. Massachusetts Mortgage Lender and Mortgage Broker License number MC 338923. Rhode Island License Lender. License number 201128110L. Call for additional details.
Welcome to Sports Talk with RNJ. I'm Steve Risser along here with Justin Affrio, and we got a busy show today. We got the NFL Combine. We got a lot of GMs and coaches talking at the Combine. We got UConn, continuing their Big East schedule. But we got to start with what happened last night. And it's crazy that Luka Doncic played the Mavs, but he did last night. Luka Doncic had his first game against his former team, the Luka and the Lakers. They beat the Mavs 107-99. Luka had a triple-double. Did not shoot the ball well from three, but he did have a triple-double. He had 19, 20, it was 19, 15, and 12. So he had a triple-double last night. He didn't play as well, even though he had a triple double. He didn't play as well as I thought he would have. I thought he would get to I thought he would have like a 30-point triple double, not a 19-point triple double. Now, still, he played well. I'll give him that. But he struggled to shoot the ball from three, but he played well. But it was an interesting night, very interesting night. The Lakers had a tribute video to AD. Laker fans started the "Thank You, Nico" chant. So a very interesting night, very emotional night for Luka Doncic. But his Lakers cannot. I think people thought they'd be a little bit more impressive, especially with the Mavs not having AD. But Lakers did get the win, 107-99, and they're 3-2 with Luka. Justin, your thoughts on last night?
Yeah, I think Luka, the triple double pretty good, but he didn't shoot great. I know some people thought maybe he was saving kind of his best effort for the first time he goes back to Dallas. But yeah, LeBron played really well last night. He stepped up for him. Dallas kind of hung around without AD last night, and Luka didn't shoot well, but it still didn't totally affect him there. And the Lakers do enough there. They played pretty well defensively last night as well. And the Lakers get it done first time. Going up against a foreign team.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, right now, when you look at the Lakers, we look at them, and the big question for the Lakers is this a championship contending team with Luka and LeBron? Is this a championship contending team? You kind of questioned it, their first couple games they played. You kind of questioned it a little bit, because LeBron was kind of the one leading the show, and then you saw Saturday Luka lead the show, and he played great. Luka's best game as a Laker was Saturday night. It was Saturday against It was on Saturday night. I mean, he was great Saturday against the Nuggets. He was great. And then last night, struggled to shoot the ball. Didn't love the fact that LeBron was kind of running the show. I feel like he's got to be the guy that runs the show. I feel like Luka's got to be the guy who's running things. He's the best player. The offense got to run through him, not LeBron at this stage of his career. But I mean, they're both arguably top 5 players in the game. Yes, the inside game is what's going to hurt. If they struggle to shoot the ball, as you saw last night, the inside game is what's going to hurt because the league, because Mark Williams failed his physical, so they weren't able to, that trade didn't go through, and Jackson Hayes is a major player at the center. So yes, if they struggle to shoot the ball, yes. I think that that definitely is going to be an issue for the Lakers. But if they shoot three, with LeBron and Reeves, I do think they're contenders. I do think they're a top 4 team. Now, I don't think they're the favorite. I think OKC or Denver are the 2 favorites, but I do think they're contenders with these 2 guys. But the inside game is definitely going to be a liability for them. I think, and that's going to be a liability all year long because there's really nothing they can do about it now.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would put them like fourth or fifth in the Western Conference, somewhere right there. I think with Luka, LeBron, together if they're healthy, I don't think you can count them out to go make a run. In a very competitive Western Conference. So yeah, you mentioned Mark Williams, that trade not going through that. I agree that definitely hurts because they definitely need another big inside and definitely another like interior defender. Um, because yeah, you mentioned they're not the greatest 3-point shooting team, and if a night their opponent gets hot, they shouldn't make stops. They're going to be in a lot of trouble. Um, yeah, so for the Lakers, that's but Austin Reeves has been playing really well lately. You know, um, Jared Vanderbilt's been decent. I know Dalton Connect's had some up and downs this year in his rookie year, but yeah, I think this Laker team's pretty good, and they should be, again, probably they win a round, and then probably the Thunder knock them out. They do end up in the 4 or 5 spot, but with LeBron and Luka, you can't count them out.
Yeah, I think they win around. I think they win around, because I don't think Minnesota's getting up to that 5 seed. I think it's probably going to end up being Houston, and they should beat Houston. They should beat Houston and get to the second round. But it's going to be hard for them. Yeah, it's going to be hard for them getting to that. It's getting to that second round because if you look at a team like OKC, I mean, I think that their big three guys, Chet, SGA, and Jalen Williams, are better than the big three of Luka. It's close, but I think they're better, and they're better inside. So if OKC's not hitting their threes, they can they'll win that. They'll definitely win that. They'll definitely win that series. So if the Lakers aren't hitting their threes, they'll win that series. We all know, even though the Lakers beat the Nuggets on Saturday night, the Lakers have had their way with the Nuggets have had their way with the Lakers. Even though it's been without Luka, they've had their way with the Lakers. And if they play, they're not going to have the best player on the floor. Jokic will be the best player on the floor in that series. So I still think Denver will be tough to beat. And again, if Denver's not hitting threes, they got Jokic inside. And then you even look at Memphis, even if the same thing. If they're not hitting threes, they got Jaren Jackson inside and Zach Edey. So yeah, I think the lack of size for the Lakers is definitely going to be a disadvantage for them. But when you have Luka and LeBron, you have 2 top 5 players. You always have a chance in the NBA.
No, you definitely do. And in the best 7 series, yeah, those two get hot a couple nights, and you find yourself getting, a chance. And we've seen a couple of those role guys for the Lakers step up at times, like Austin Reeves. He has a big night. They could, steal a game or two. So yeah, it's always, in a 7-game series, a lot can happen. Especially with a team like the Lakers that, have LeBron and Luka, on the same team there. So yeah, it's going to be the Western Conference to be a tough out. Like, I know the Rockets right now, like they're a young team, but they got some talent. Maybe they're still a year away. I don't, Minnesota had that huge comeback the other night. Maybe they start to figure it out, but we'll see with them. And, I know the Warriors too with Jimmy Butler. I guess you can't count out Steph Curry either.
No, they're playing really well. I mean, I'd argue right now the Warriors are probably better than they're better than the Clippers and the Rockets. The Warriors, yeah. So yeah, if the Warriors get into that spot, if I'm the Lakers, I'd rather play the Clippers or the Rockets than the Warriors. The way the Warriors are playing with Jimmy Butler. So yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm with you where I think they win a round, but they lose in the second round.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think OKC knocks them off. Yeah, because I think Oklahoma City too could maybe overwhelm them a little bit with their length that they have at a couple of those spots. So yeah, I'm with you. I really do think this is OKC's year. The way they've been playing. So yeah, I agree. I think they win around and OKC bounces them in the second round.
Yeah, I agree there. I definitely agree there. Now, moving to the Mavs piece of this, and I think we've definitely talked about this we've definitely talked about this since the trade. Should the Mavs fire Nico Harrison if they miss the playoffs? And I think absolutely they should. They definitely should fire. Now, they haven't played as bad as I thought they were going to play. They're 5-6. Kyrie had a really good game, but with AD out indefinitely, it's still going to be tough for them to get. We'll see if AD can play in the play-in. If AD can play in the play-in, I think there is a chance they can make the playoffs. Because if you look at the Western Conference, the Clippers are not playing well right now. The Suns are a disaster. We saw what happened with the Spurs with Wemby out. I think there's a chance to get the number 8 seed, but if they miss the playoffs, they have to fire Nico Harrison. Because if say the Lakers go run and win the championship, and the Mavericks miss the playoffs, it's going to go down as the worst trade in NBA history. And there's even and the thing is the Mavs fans have got to stare at this for years now. It's not like I'm a Giants fan with Saquon. It's not. It's probably not. It was terrible to see, it was terrible to see him win a Super Bowl with the Eagles, but it's not going to last that long. It's not going to last. Probably only going to last, maybe 3 or 4, a couple more years. But with the Mavs, this thing's going to last over a decade. Seeing that Luka's only 25.
Yeah, absolutely, it will be. And yeah, I agree. He should probably be fired because you're relying on three guys who are in the 30s with AD, Clay, and Kyrie Irving. And Kyrie Irving's, I believe, is a pending free agent after this season. So like
Yeah.
very easily Kyrie could walk. That leaves you to AD and Clay Thompson, who are two guys who have not been totally able to stay healthy. So and they're only getting older. So like they really closed their championship window pretty quickly after treating Luka. So no, I agree. I think you would have to move on. Again, we talked about the time. It at the time it was one of the worst trades in all of sports in history, and it definitely could go down by the time it's over. By the next 5-10 years. When Luka's on, playing with the Lakers, whenever that is. So yeah, I would think you'd have to fire him, especially too, because that fan base has been so relentless on him. If you bring him back, I just can't imagine like ticket sales would be great, like any of that stuff. So, yeah, I agree. I think you would have to fire him if the team misses the playoffs.
Yeah, you definitely do it. It's going to be interesting to see the rematch on April 9th because I think that's on a Wednesday. So we'll probably be answering the question to Mavs fans: should they cheer Luka and should they boo Luka? And let's be honest, I can even answer that question now. When he comes into their building on April 9th, they better be cheering him. They better be cheering him. They better not be booing him. They better be cheering him because it's not Luka's fault that he's not a Mav anymore. It's on Nico Harrison, and he said it after the game. He said after the game, Luka had no interaction with him. Had no interaction with him before the game.
Yeah, no, I think Dallas fans all know that they had nothing to do with Luka. Luka never asked to be traded. Luka didn't end that thing the wrong way. And I think everybody knows that was on Nico Harrison. He just got absolutely schooled by the Lakers front office there. And yeah, I'd be surprised if there's any booze in that building for Luka. And he hasn't it's not like he's like in the media has absolutely destroyed like the fans afterwards or like the organization. Like he hasn't said a bad word about Dallas. So I'd be stunned if there's a bad word coming out of any Mavs fans that night. I can't imagine he gets booed by any Mavericks fans on April 7th.
April 9th, but that's actually April 7th. That's the night of the national
championship game. So yeah, I got
it. So April 9th, Wednesday, April 9th will be when they play again in Dallas. That'll be a very, very interesting night when Luka comes back to Dallas. But we got to talk about the other big story in the NBA, and that is the Philadelphia 76ers. They've been an absolute disaster this year. 20-37, have lost 8 straight games. Joel Embiid, they sat him down on Monday. They got absolutely embarrassed by the Chicago Bulls on Monday. The last 2 games Embiid has played, he hasn't had more than 15 points. The big question is with the Sixers. They have if their top 6 pick is protected. They have a top 6 protected. Their top 6 pick is protected. Should they shut down Embiid and just tank at this point? Should they shut down Embiid and just tank? And I'm going to say yes. I mean, I think they kind of need to. They kind of need to just shut them down. Get one of these guys, because there is a BJ Edgecombe, there is a Trey Johnson in this draft. This is a good draft. This is the right draft to do. This is the right year to tank. This is the right year to tank. So I think they should. I think they should shut Embiid down. I think it should be over. Nick Nurse said after the game on Monday, we haven't gotten there as an organization yet. I think they need to get there as an organization. I think they need to shut him down. This thing has been a disaster this year for the Sixers. Embiid, we know Embiid's not 100%. So I think you got to shut him down. If you're the Sixers, I think with your top six protected pick, I think you've got to shut him down.
I agree. It's helped that the Eagles just won the championship, and it's kind of the pressure been off on the Sixers of late.
It's starting to ramp up a little bit now.
Now it's been a couple of weeks, but I just think with Embiid, I don't think he's ever gonna be like. I just don't think I think the knees are just an issue now, and I don't like. Rest is probably gonna help a little bit. I just don't think you're gonna see the Embiid that we've seen in the past, and that's not great. And there's, I know you have Tyrese Maxey that you've signed here through 2030, I believe. Paul George is only getting older. You have McCain, who's I know he's out for the year, but he looked promising, in the while he was playing. So, yeah, I'd shut him down and try to get a pick, but I just don't think you're getting the same out of Embiid that you have in the past. I don't think you're getting that top level player anymore. I just don't.
And here's the next question: what is Embiid's future with the Sixers? What is, should they just move on from Embiid? And as you were saying, you're not going to get the same player because of knee injuries, and I agree. And I think the Sixers should move on. I really do. I think the Sixers should. Now the contract. Look at what he's projected to make the next 4 years because he signed the extension in the offseason. 2026, 55 million. 2027, 59 million. 2028, 64 million. And 2029, 69 million. So he's not a free agent until like the 2029 until after the 2029 season. So it's going to be hard for a team to take on that contract, but you can get a tear. You get a Charlotte. You can get a bad franchise like a Charlotte. You can get a really, or even a Washington. I don't know about Washington, but you get a really, really bad franchise to take on this deal. You really could. And I think the Sixers should move on. I think they should get a high draft pick, try to get one of those, top players this year, pair him with Tyrese Maxey. And I think the Sixers should try to trade him and see what draft cap. And they're still getting a ton of draft capital. The guy's a former MVP, but I think the Sixers should move on. I think the process needs to end. They need to end this process where they couldn't get out of the second round of the playoffs. I think that has to end, and I think they should move on from Embiid.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't realize he was making that much money. That's a lie. That's turned into a giant mistake there for the Sixers. I know they went big this offseason. Bringing George, re-signing Maxey, I believe too, was his extension. They gave him last offseason. So, yeah, I believe they have to move on. It's going to be tough to trade him with that contract, but yeah, maybe you get a Charlotte. It would even be tough. You can't even have them buy him out, because that's just so much money. But yeah, maybe a Charlotte's desperate enough to, you know, maybe they try to build around him or just do something like that. So yeah, I agree that it's probably time to just let go of a beat. I don't think it's any better. And if you have a good draft, you get some more cap. Maybe they could kind of get back in the picture because it's not that hard to climb up in the Eastern Conference. It's really not. So if they hit on a draft pick or two, they make good trade, they sign somebody. I think they get it back up in the Eastern Conference. So I think it's time to move on and kind of try to restart things.
Yeah, this whole trust the process era of the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, Markel Fultz, what a terrible pick that was. This whole trust the process era has got to come to an end. It just has to. I mean, and you thought there was a lot of promise at the start. There was a lot of promise. That 2018 season with both of them, you thought this could be something special with Simmons and Embiid. And then 2019, they go out and trade for Jimmy Butler. They have the three of them on the team. They have Butler, they have Embiid, they have Simmons on that team, and they actually that was their best chance. They almost beat the Raptors in the Kawhi Leonard hit that game winning shot in the playoffs, and then it's pretty much that pretty much set the tone. That series set the tone pretty much for what this era has been of Sixer basketball. 2020 they get swept out of the playoffs by the Celtics. 2021 they couldn't even beat the Hawks. With the number one seed, and they got eliminated by the Hawks. And they remember that was where Ben Simmons gave up the ball, didn't shoot the ball. They lost the Hawks. Then you go back to then you go back to 2022, lost in 6 to the Heat. 2023 had the lead. You thought all right, maybe they're growing up here. Had the lead against the Celtics, and then Embiid and Harden, and that was when they traded for James Harden. And we thought, oh, that's when they got rid of Simmons, traded for Harden. And we thought, oh, maybe this team can finally do something. And again, they lose in 7 to the Celtics, get blown out in Game 7. Jason Tatum goes crazy in Game 7, and then last year they lose in 6 to my Knicks. So it's time for this process to end. It's time for this process to end and build this team around Tyrese Maxey.
No, I agree. It is. This is kind of what they get for doing trust the process and tanking for as long as they did. Like you never should be rewarded when you do that. I think it's ridiculous. So they got what they deserved in my mind. So yeah, they missed on a couple big ones. Like they could have had Tatum, right? And that's when they picked Fultz instead. Like
Markel Fultz, yep.
Yeah. So they could have had Tatum and maybe they wouldn't win with him. So yeah, I think it's time to move on and to reset things and finish up the trust the process and all that, and I don't know, come up with a new tagline or whatever for whatever they up to next.
Exactly. They could have had Jason Tatum. They could have had Jaylen Brown. They could have had Tatum. They could have had Brown, but they ended up with Simmons and Fultz. And they couldn't. And the Celtics were their nemesis. Lost to them in 2018, lost to them in 2020, lost to them in 2023. 3 times Tatum, who they could have, and Jaylen Brown, who they could have had both, knocked them out of the playoffs. So yeah, it is time to move forward. For me, it's time for the Sixers to move forward without Embiid. But there's been a lot of rumors out there that Matthew Stafford could be traded. But before we talk about that, we are going to hear from our friends at JPEG Financial and Shamrock Home Inspections.
Do you have a 401k and some savings for future retirement, but don't even know if it's enough to live off of? How much is enough? How often are you thinking about it? The team at JPEG's Financial Group can help set your mind at ease. We specialize in creating strategies in the planning and managing of your financial, educational, and investment needs. We help clients pursue their investment goals with sound financial strategies. You deserve a personal, tailored plan. Lasting, meaningful, and open relationships are the foundation of our practice. You've worked hard for your money and should feel confident in your investment choices as you make decisions for your financial future. Your goals are our goals. We are dedicated to your needs and hopes for your future. Visit our website and give us a call at 860-430-5397. Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Raymond James Financial Services Advisors, Inc. JPEG's Financial Group, LLC is not a registered broker-dealer and is independent of Raymond James Financial Services. JPEG's Financial Group is located at 78 Eastern Boulevard, Glastonbury, Connecticut. There's no bigger investment than home ownership. And to make sure the house is up to your standards, you need a professional to look it over. Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections is a licensed home inspector and a member of the Connecticut Association of Home Inspectors. Brian was a contractor for over 15 years, so he knows how homes should be constructed and how mechanicals should work.
What makes me a good home inspector was the 20 years that I was a home improvement person, doing all the different repairs that I have done and what other people have done wrong that I had to go out and fix. So I have a pretty quick eye on seeing what's right and what's wrong. Before you move, call Shamrock Home Inspections.
Before you make the biggest investment of your life, call Brian Flanagan from Shamrock Home Inspections at 860-268-2566 or visit shamrockhomeinspectionct.com.
All righty. So on Saturday, the Rams gave Matthew Stafford and his agent permission to talk to other teams to see what he's worth, see what he's worth right now, and see what his and right now Stafford wants $50 million a year. He wants $50 million a year, and there's 4 teams that are interested right now: the Browns, the Giants, the Raiders, and the Steelers. But we'll start with the Giants. And if you are the Giants, would you trade for Matthew Stafford? And as a Giant fan, seeing what he wants, $50 million a year, and seeing that there's a good chance the Giants might have to give up the number 3 pick, I'm going to say no. Because I think the Giants right now are not a Matthew Stafford away from competing for a championship. Now, could they, win 8 or 9 games and maybe sneak into the wild card race with him and Malik Neighbors, and Tyrone Tracy? That could happen. But they're not a team that can compete for a championship with, trading the 3rd pick or paying Matthew Stafford that kind of money. The Giants only have $48 million in cap space right now, which is 14th in the NFL. If they trade, Stafford wants $50 million a year. So as a Giant fan, I'm going to say no. But this regime is. I wouldn't be surprised if they do it and give up the number 3 pick, because this regime is desperate. They are on the hot. Joe Shane and Brian Dable are on the hot seat. They are desperate. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do it. But I definitely don't think they should do it.
Yeah, no, I agree, because you're just delaying the inevitable. Like, yeah, he maybe wins you 6-7 games for a couple years. Then it just sets you back, another 2-3 years of trying to find that franchise quarterback. Like, in that division with the roster you guys have right now, yes, you're not close to competing. I get it; they are desperate. They're trying to save their jobs, but like, you maybe keep your job for another year or so. Like, it's not totally getting better. And yeah, I wouldn't, because you're not a quarterback away. And I didn't realize they only had $48 million in capital. You need more than just a quarterback. Like, Matthew Stafford's not gonna come in and help everything out. So Yeah, I'd hold on to the draft pick and, you know, go with a rental for a year, but I know that's probably not what they're going to want to do because, yeah, their job's in line. And in the next regime, they're what happens? They might try to get rid of Matthew Stafford maybe next offseason. They don't want that.
Yeah,
That might be a
yeah,
hard contract to get rid of too.
yeah.
That's the thing.
Exactly, exactly, and there's just there's a ton of needs on the Giants, and there's a reason. It was not all because of Daniel Jones. They went 3-14. You saw when Daniel Jones, when they got rid of Daniel Jones, the team was terrible, and there's a lot of needs. I mean, corners a need, offensive line still a need. They need more depth at receiver. They need more depth in the defensive line. They pretty much, you could argue the Giants they have needs everywhere. So going out and trading for Stafford, yeah, you're going to be obviously better. You'll probably be playing meaningful football late in December, but you're not close to competing with the Eagles and the Commanders. And you can't be making it would just be a desperation move if they did it.
Yeah, it would. It'd be absolutely desperate. And again, I know you've talked about this. You brought this up a couple times. Like, I know maybe put you right there at Dallas, but it's like Dallas has owned you the past couple of years. Like, are we really sure you can knock off Dallas next year with Matthew Stafford? Maybe you're still sitting there in fourth place.
Yeah, you never know.
It's yeah,
Yeah,
you don't.
Dallas has had our number. Yeah, the Cowboys have had our
Yeah.
number. Now, I think they should be able to beat the Cowboys one time. We're seeing what's happened in Dallas so far this offseason with Matthew Stafford, but still, it doesn't even guarantee that you would be better than the Cowboys.
Yeah, it doesn't so. So that's why you're just delaying the inevitable. But again, I get why Mayor didn't want to, I know why Mayor didn't want to fire him, but this is why he probably should have just pulled the plug and just did it this year. Because this is what's gonna happen now if you do trade for Stafford and it's just another 2-3 years, you're just kicking the can down the road for another franchise quarterback. And yeah, and I know Joe Strain, like the Tyron Tracy pick was good, but like you mentioned it, they have needs everywhere. Do you really trust Shane to hit the rest of his draft picks, to fill those
Absolutely
holes?
not. Absolutely not. The reason there are so many needs is because Joe Shane was garbage in his first. He had two terrible drafts. His first 2 years, his first two drafts were terrible. That's why it's year 3 now. You can't blame Dave Gettleman anymore. The reason the roster is what it is because of Joe Shane. I mean, and we saw Hard Knocks with the Saquon stuff and how arrogant he was about that too. It's just, yeah. But I wouldn't be surprised with this regime. They do something desperate. I wouldn't be surprised if they trade the number 3 pick, pay him $50 million, and have Matthew Stafford as a quarterback. Let me tell you, I wouldn't be surprised. This would be crazy if this regime, traded up to 1 or 2 to get one of the 2 quarterbacks. Which would be terrible because these 2 quarterbacks are not worth trading up for. But again, this is the problem. Like for example, the Jets, they have a brand new regime. They're not going to do anything desperate. They're going to do what's best for the football team. The problem with the Giants keeping Joe Shane and Brian Daboll is they're not going to do what's best for the organization long term. They're going to do what's best for themselves long term.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. That's what they're going to do. Again, going back to my Kings, this team doesn't fit. Like, they brought in Zach LaVine because their regime's desperate to keep their jobs and they need to make the playoffs. So let's fit a team that doesn't fit together and let's just try to accumulate talent and hope it works. And it's not. So yeah, that's what they do when their front office are desperate right now, and they try to figure it out, and they try to see the jobs, but it's such a tough spot right now because you wish that you had a quarterback from last year's draft class and this one that you could really feel good about the draft, and you feel good that he could be a franchise guy because you don't feel great about Ward or Sanders. And I heard somebody say if Sanders had the last name Johnson, he'd be like a 3rd-round pick. Like, he's not.
Wow, 3rd? Wow, I've heard 2nd,
Yeah.
but 3rd?
Yeah, I heard 3rd, but maybe 2nd, 3rd. Like, it's a day 2 guy. So
and you watched a lot of Shedeur Sanders. You probably think he's a day 2 guy.
Yeah, I think I don't want to totally compare him to Tom Brady because I don't think, but he's a very intelligent quarterback. He's not the most athletic. He does hold on the ball a little bit too long in my mind, but he does have some pretty good arm talent. Like, I just think instinctively, like Tom Brady, he's a very smart quarterback and he won't kill you. Like, he won't throw 4 or 5 interceptions. Where Cam Ward's more of a risk taker. And I won't be shocked at the NFL level. He has a 4 interception type game a couple times because he'll take more of that risk. So yeah, I'm not terribly high on those 2 guys. be top 5 picks or whatever. So yeah, it's a tough spot for the Giants. It just again, it just goes back to I know Mary didn't want to do it again, but it would have just been better to pull the plug and just move on.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it is what it is, and that's the situation the Giants are in. So yeah, as we'll say, should they trade for Stafford? No. But would I be surprised if they traded the number 3 pick and paid him $50 million a year, freed up enough cap space to pay him $50 million a year, so they can't do anything in free agency? Yes, and no, I wouldn't be at all. I would not be at all. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens with the Giants. But going back to Stafford, the big question for him now, that seeing that his agent, the Rams gave his agent permission to seek to see what he's worth, is which team, and we'll talk, which team would be the best fit for him. I think and I think that question's an obvious question. There's an obvious answer there. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers. It's the Steelers. 3 reasons why. Number one, they're ninth. They have $60 million in cap space, so they'd be willing to do it. They'd be willing to sign Stafford to it. They would be able to give Stafford what he wants. So they're ninth in cap space at $60 million in cap space. Number two, they have the 21st overall pick. That's you could give up the 21st overall pick for a quarterback, and we've seen the Steelers, put up, have guys like Russell Wilson, Mitch Trubisky, washed up Big Ben. They've been losing way too much in the first round of the playoffs. They're not even really competing in the first round of the playoffs. I think Stafford, and this leads to my next point, they are a quarterback away. Unlike the Giants, unlike the Raiders, unlike the Browns, the Steelers are a quarterback away from competing for a championship. They are. So if you look at that roster with Pickens, with Najee Harris, with their defenses, one of the top defenses in the league, one of the top coaches in the league, and Mike Tomlin, they are a quarterback away. So if they make this trade, it would make sense for them. It makes the most sense for the Steelers. It would be the best fit for Matthew Stafford. It makes the most sense for the Steelers to trade for Matthew Stafford.
I agree with you. I think it is. Yeah, they're the team that's most ready to contend right now. They have a solid, their offensive line's it's solid enough. Their defense you mentioned, they have an unbelievable defense, and they do have some young talent in the offense, like a Najee Harris, a George Pickens, if he keep his head on straight, a Jalen Warren. That like maybe you bring in a quarterback like Matthew Stafford, and he can get the best out of all those guys, and those guys kind of reach your potential offensively, especially in that division too, where you have Joe Burrow, you have Lamar Jackson, you're going to have to put up some points. So that's where we've seen the Pittsburgh Steelers have struggled the last couple of years is offensively. They haven't been able to get it done. So yeah, I'm with you. I think the Pittsburgh would be an awesome fit for him. Be the first time too, he's playing home games outdoors. So it would, in his whole career. So he's getting up there in age, but I think Steelers are the best spot for him.
Yeah, and you look at the Steelers have lost 4 of the last 5 years in the first round, and in 3 of those losses, they haven't scored more than 17 points. 2021 scored 10 points against the Chiefs. 2023 scored 17 points against the Bills, and then last year scored 13 points against the Ravens. I know the defense hasn't played that well in the playoff games, but also the offense has not done their part either. I think a big reason for that is they haven't had the quarterback play. You get a Russell Wilson that's over the hill. Yeah, you're last year. I mean, you're playing. You're playing Mason Rudolph in a playoff game, and then the year before, and then in 2021, you're playing a washed-up Big Ben. And then that playoff game they lost in 2020. They got off to a terrible start with Big Ben. So the Steelers need a quarterback, and I think the only way they can compete for a championship and get out of no man's land is to make this trade, because there's no one in the draft that's really gonna help them this year. The only way the Steelers get out of no man's land, which they've been in, since 2021, is to make this trade.
No, I totally agree with you because they're always around the 20s, high teens, and it's every organization that's ever gonna go like 3-14 or 4-13, something like that. In a year where they're gonna have a top 5 pick and they can go get that quarterback. Like that's not who that Steelers organization is. They've done a pretty good job of winning that. So yeah, it's gonna be tough, and they kind of have to keep. And there's not that quarterback this year that they're going to find in the 20s that is going to help them moving forward as a franchise guy. So yeah, if they want to get out of that cycle that they've been in, and they want to kind of be up there competing with the top of the AFC, they definitely have to go get a guy like Matthew Stafford to get out of it, and hopefully he can win a playoff game or two. When the guy has he's won a Super Bowl too with the Rams, so he's got that experience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then the last, or and lastly, should he is he going to be a Ram next year? Do we think he's going to be a Ram next year? And I think that's where he's going to end up being. I think he's going to, because they were this close to beating the Eagles with him at the quarterback. If you trade him away, you're not a Super Bowl contender next year. You're not. You're not going to make the playoffs. You're not making the playoffs with Jimmy Garoppolo right now. I'm telling you that right now. You're not making the playoffs with Garoppolo. And even if you anyway, and you're not getting one of the top quarterbacks. So I mean, yeah. Say they sign Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is over the hill right now. Matthew Stafford is clearly a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. Listen. We're not going to compare the careers. Rodgers definitely has had a much better career, but right now, as of right now, Matthew Stafford is clearly a better quarterback than Aaron Rodgers. He gives you the best chance to win the Super Bowl in 2025, and you were closer than a lot of people think to win the Super Bowl in 2024. You gave the Eagles their best game. If Jalen Carter doesn't make that sack, there's a chance you eliminate the Eagles from the playoffs. So I think it would be stupid for the Rams to trade Matthew Stafford, and I think he stays there because I trust the Rams organization. Les Snead is I wasn't for him trading all those draft picks, but Les Snead is a good GM. He's a good GM. So and Sean McVay, I just don't think Les Snead and Sean McVay are going to allow it to happen. That's why I think he eventually. I think at the end of the day, he stays with the Rams.
Yeah, I agree. I think he will end up staying there, and I think too, if the Steelers end up for whatever reason not wanting him, and like it's just like the Giants, the Browns, maybe like a Titans show up and try to enter the race. Why? Like if you're Stafford, I get it about the money, but like wouldn't you want to go? Would you rather end your career with a chance to go win a Super Bowl, another one, instead of going to a rebuild and maybe the last 2-3 years you're like a 4 or 5 win team? Like I would think so too. That in the back of his mind, like he doesn't want to go back to a situation where he was in Detroit, where they were bad for so long. That maybe he sticks around too. So I get it. I do think that McVay and the staff, the front office, they come to agreement and they do keep him around, because I did hear that rumor yesterday too about Rodgers, and I was like, that's an interesting one. Like, yeah, I'd probably rather have Stafford right now than Aaron Rodgers, but yeah, I think Stafford will stick around and stay in LA.
Yeah, I think eventually he will, but it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next couple of weeks with Matthew Stafford. But we'll move on to something that happened that was a little interesting this week. And the Green Bay Packers, who lost to the Eagles in the playoffs, proposed to the NFL that they should ban the tush push. And listen, I'm somebody who hates the Eagles, but I think that's the most ridiculous thing you could do is the Eagles do it better than anyone else. How about you get better? How about you get guys in your defensive line outside of Rashawn Gary that can stop the run, okay? How about you stop complaining and actually get better? Get better as a football team. Don't complain, oh, well, the tush push, they got to get rid of it. They got rid of it. Stop it. There is no way the NFL should ban the tush push. And Nick Sirianni, I agree with him 100%. We practice it. We work hard. Why should it be banned? Why should the league take away a play that we work so hard on? I think it's ridiculous that teams want the team would request to the league to ban the tush push. How about you get better and learn how to stop it? How about you get better, or try to execute it yourself? So I mean, I think it's sour grapes from the Green Bay Packers, complete sour grapes from the Packers, from them losing the first round of the playoffs.
No, I agree. That play it's like a rugby scrum. That's what I kind of seem like that play is. It always kind of feels like a rugby scrum, and yeah, the Eagles do it so well, and the Bills tried to run it. You could say that cost them against the Chiefs that they weren't able to they weren't able to get it done. Yeah, the Eagles have kind of been the one team.
You've heard McDermott complain about the injury thing. Now, legitimate concern, but still, he's complaining too.
Yeah, of course. Of course he's complaining. And the thing is, too, you need 24 the owner sign off. And I don't think you're going to be able to get that. Because most of those owners, too, lots of the GMs, like, in their ears kind of saying this is, but I don't know how many of the GMs and coaching staffs have kind of come out and said they don't like it. Obviously we just heard, Big Value, the Packers GM. So, yeah, like, I think teams should try to figure out a way to stop it, or try to figure out a way to execute it themselves. And yeah, the Eagles have perfected it, and I don't see a major problem with it right now. I just don't. Like, it's something you could really only use in short yardage anyways. Like, I feel like teams gotta be better stopping it, or teams gotta be better executing it.
Yeah, yeah. I just don't get. I don't get why teams would complain about it. I really don't. I think what teams should complain more about is what the commander, what Frankie Louis was doing, was continuing to jump off sides. I think that should end up being if you keep doing that, that should end up being a first down or a touchdown eventually. But yeah, listen, get better. I'm tired of some of these franchises that complain. And the Packers are one of them. And the LaFleur Packers are a team that, for 5-6 years has been good, but not good enough. Losing the NFC Championship game gets crushed, destroyed to the Niners in the NFC title game. 2020, they lose another NFC Championship game. 2021, number one seed. Niners bouncing from the playoffs. And then, all right, they won their playoff game last year, but let's be honest. I don't know if you want to brag about going to Dallas and winning a playoff game. They didn't win a playoff game there, but then they lose again to San Francisco, like the third time the Floors lost to Shanahan, and then last year they get bounced by the Eagles. I mean, you've won you in 6 years. Yeah, you've been good, but not good enough. But stop complaining. How about you get better? How about you have some accountability? Have some accountability instead of going to the league and complaining. That's just, to me, that's just, and as I said earlier, just total sour grapes.
No, it is, and yeah, there's some creative things you could do. Like, I think it was Oregon State in 2023. I think it was DJ when he was up there. I think they ran a fake tush push. Like, they looked like in the formation, but DJ came around and ran like a bootleg, and I think they scored a touchdown off it. Like, I haven't seen an NFL team do that yet. Like, you can kind of get creative with it, and maybe run something like that for. I know it after you do it once, it's probably not going to work again, but hey, the Bills could have maybe tried that, and maybe they go for a touchdown, win the game. So yeah, there's some things you could do with it. Yeah, I think coaches are just. I'm not surprised that they're upset about it, because they don't ever want to blame themselves to their teammates. It's always somebody else's fault. They never want to take the fall for anything because they know they do. Then their fans are just gonna get more mad at them. So I get why they deflect deflected on to blaming the Eagles and all that. But I agree. I just think get better at it. Try something unique with it, like a bootleg instead, or run a fake with it, and get better at stopping it.
Yeah, one team I'm not picking to win a championship next year is the Green Bay Packers. How about we have some accountability in our organization? How about we hold ourselves accountable? Not, listen, it's not a terrible, it's a good franchise, but how about we have some sort of accountability here? Let's have some accountability for losing that game. Let's not, make excuses about a play that a team has done an outstanding job executing. Let's not make that as an excuse for why you got eliminated. You got eliminated because you weren't able to stop it, and your quarterback did not have a good game. And that's what happened. So let's stop with the excuses. Let's stop with wanting the rule ban. How about you get better? How about you get better and learn from your loss and try to win a championship next year, not complain to the league. So I think the tush push, I think it's fine, and I think it should go on. I don't think the NFL should ban it. I am fine with the rule.
No, I agree with you. I don't think they should either, and it'd be tough to get 24 and sign off on that anyway. So I'd be surprised if that we're end up to get banned anyway. So yeah, I think it was a pretty babyish move there by the Packers, and again, they did not play well in that round against the Eagles, and that was not the reason why they lost the football game. They definitely did not come out and. You had to fumble the opening kickoff. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I should have been reversed, but you set yourself in a hole at the very beginning of the game.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll wrap up the show talking about some UConn basketball, and it has been a up and down season for UConn, especially in the Big East. I mean, they lose it. They lose again right now. I think they're 10-6 in the Big East, 18-9 overall. This team has just been Jekyll and Hyde all year, and it's really, it really started when Hurley, got cocky and said, "Oh, I'm the best coach in the country." Ever since then, it's been pretty much, win a game then drop a game. Yeah, because win a game then drop a game because they beat Butler that night. They actually upset Marquette after that, but after that they lost that St. John's game. And then they beat Creighton, but then it was the Seton Hall game, which was inexcusable. Beat Villanova, but then get completely outplayed. They didn't just lose to St. John's. St. John's beat them really good. And Sunday, the big question is this a bridge for UConn? Is this UConn team good enough to make a run? And I hate to say it, I'm going to say no. I just think Minkus and the bat inside. Yes, Terrace Reed has been better. I think he should start. he was better, and Samson Johnson didn't play well. But I think they're inconsistent inside, and the biggest issue is no point guard play. The turnovers have been an issue all year long. Even in games they won, the Marquette game, they turned the ball over 25 times. The turnovers have just been an issue. So for me, as I texted you on Sunday, St. John's, the way they played, the way they shot the three, they could be a Final Four team. UConn right now, Lenardi having them as a number 9 seed. I know you're not a big Lenardi guy, but Fox has them as a number 9 seed too. Right now, UConn, the way they're playing, they're lucky. They'll be lucky out of the second weekend. So to me, it is a bridge year.
Yeah, no, I agree. And you mentioned Hurley, the cockiness. Maybe this coaching staff needed a piece of humble pie this year. Maybe that's what they need.
Yeah.
Because I know the last 2 years they hit on every evaluation that they had, and this year they missed on a couple. And I think maybe got to the point where they just thought they could plug and play anybody in their system and it's going to work. And clearly it didn't happen this year.
That doesn't work. That doesn't work in sports. Plugging and playing doesn't work.
No.
You got to recruit the best talent. You got to draft the best talent. Plugging and playing doesn't work.
No, unless you're Duke and you could just have 9 forwards, but you just have so many great players that it just doesn't matter. You can just it works like a video game. But yeah, I agree. It's tough. Look at Kansas.
No, Kansas been a disaster this year. This year, Kansas has been. And they had guys. They were preseason number 1. Had guys returning too.
Yeah,
They've just been a disaster.
I called that one. I didn't think they'd be on rank, but
you thought they were overrated.
Yeah. Oh, I thought Bama should have been number 1 overall. But
yeah, you said it. I remember you saying that early in the year. I think during like the Champions Classic, we asked, should KU be the number 1 team in the country? You immediately said no.
Yeah, I was not high on that team going in. AJ Stewart's played at 7 different schools if you include all the high schools. Like that's just not a winning player. Or Hunter Dickens is not a winning player as well. But back to UConn here. I think it's a bridge year. I just think Caravan and DR, I just think those two just have their tanks aren't empty this year or at this point. I just think they're both worn down. DR is going through the injury with the tendonitis in the knee. That's not getting any better. I don't think anytime soon. You just got inconsistency. You mentioned it. Terrace Reed, again, he's been good at times, but he's just very inconsistent. It's what you saw from Michigan, or what he was at Michigan. A little bit better version, of course, but and maybe it helps too that I don't want to say helps, but you get eliminated the first weekend. You have an extra 2 weeks to recruit now, and really let's focus on that instead of having to do it. I know Tom Moore's been kind of in charge the last couple of years of doing it, but it's like they're doing it on the plane back from the national championship game. They're already in, I think it is a bridge year. I think maybe it's a good learning lesson. Hurley at the Mexico State game said, I vowed to never go small again. They were small this year. Maybe he's, Mullins and Adams, the 2 freshmen coming in next year, 6'4", 6'5" guards. So that's going to help. But I think it is a bridge year. And, it's disappointing, but it's maybe a good wake-up call for this coaching staff. Yeah, and again, they've been great, but I think it's a good kind of humbling moment for Hurley to bring him back down to earth just a little bit. Again, he had the Lakers in Kentucky wanting him. Those are 2 of the best jobs in basketball. So, I can't blame him for having that high and just, maybe not the worst case in the world here that they do take a little bit of setback, even though it's hard to say.
And you brought up the reasons why they're taking a step back this year. And really, Diarra and Caravan have not improved. They've not taken that leap that they needed to take. Diarra has not been the point guard that any UConn fan expected. But Diarra has not become the point guard UConn fans of UConn wanted they wanted him to be. And Caravan has pretty much stayed the same. He stayed the same, and he could not stay the same this year. He needed go from 15 a game to 18, 20 a game, and he has not taken that leap. But I mean, the only guy that really has taken that leap is solo ball. Outside of that, Samson Johnson, the guys who returned, Samson Johnson, Diarra, Caravan, they haven't taken that leap. And you hit the nail on the head with the recruiting. Yeah, it's hard to recruit. That's why it's so brutal to win 3 straight national titles. That's why it was tough to win 2 in a row. That's why it's tough to be overly critical of this team for what they've given you the last 2 years. I mean, that's why it's very, very hard to be overly critical of this team. I mean, we're both Giants and Pats fans. Very easy to be critical of them, seeing their lack of success the last 4 or 5 years. But UConn basketball, yes, it's a kind of a down year, but it's very hard to be critical seeing what they've given you, and it's just brutal. I mean, that's why the last team to win 3 straight national championships was the John Wooden UCLA Bruins. So it's so hard to do. And you said it perfectly, the recruiting. And the two biggest reasons why, they're not as good this year is lack of improvement with the guys who've returned, and the recruiting is just difficult, and it shows you why it's so hard to win 3 straight national titles.
That is, it is, and you mentioned it, like that sophomore class, like Jaden Ross, they haven't got, like I think what they wanted Jaden Ross is to be the next version of Andre Jackson. He's not strong enough yet. I know Hurley actually said that too yesterday, like that all that sophomores he wants in the weight room all summer. But like Jalen Stewart too, like at times this year he looks like, hey, this guy could probably be a second round pick, and then at times it's just like where he's done nothing. Like I think Sunday played 13 minutes. Like it's just the sophomore class has been very inconsistent. You haven't been able to, outside of like solo ball, like you have Mahaney for another year, but like I guess he's somebody that at this point does he go back to, does he transfer? I don't know. So they've missed. I mean, this year the class that's coming in next year looks really, really talented. But again, it is, you do have to wait and see a little bit. But I do really think this class he's got coming into legit. And you got a 7-footer who can shoot the 3 next year. So, which is going to help. And that's going to help the rim protection as well because they've struggled with that this year. Clean's been a big hole on the defensive end, which you knew it was to happen. I didn't think it would be this big of a hole. So, yeah, it's a bridge year. Next year, again, my guess is they go for one guy in the portal, and I think that's another like 6'3" to 6'5" guard, something like that. That's good on the defensive end. Could probably do a little bit something on the offensive end as well. Could probably knock down some threes, but it just hasn't panned out. Like I think what Mahaney too is they want him to be a better version of Joey Calcaterra, and it just hasn't happened for him. And I don't think it's gonna right now. Maybe next year, but yeah, it's just been it's been tough, especially to see what happened in the last couple of years. It's you miss the 4 guys from last year: the Newtons, the Spencers, the Klingons, and Castle. Guys were those are 2 lottery, 4 NBA guys. 2 of them went to lottery, and you've already seen the impact that Castle and Klingon both have with their respective teams.
Exactly. It just I mean their team last year was loaded with those 4 guys, just loaded, and it's just you knew that you had to know there was probably going to be a drop off, and there has been. Now getting to the games this week, we'll start with tonight's game at the XL Center, Georgetown, UConn. Georgetown loses Thomas Sober for the season. UConn a 14.5-point favorite here. I think they win this game. I think they win it. I think they win it by double digits. I think they do because in the previous matchup, UConn won in the game in January. UConn won 68-60. They had Sorber. UConn didn't have McNeely. I think UConn wins this. I think they win it by 10 or 11 points tonight. I like a 74-63. I think they win it. I'm going to say like 74-63, 74-64. I think McNeely hits 3. I think they hit 3. I think McNeely's hot. I think Ball's hot. I think that's going to be the difference. I think the 3-point shooting of UConn's going to be the difference. And I think that, I think that PV will have a pretty good game, but Mac and Epps, they struggled against UConn the first time. I think they continue to struggle. I'm going to UConn here. I think they win. I think they win tonight. I think they win it by 10, 11 points at the XL Center at the XL Center tonight.
Yeah. You mentioned the line. KenPom has 8. Oh, that's
really?
A very big. Now I don't know.
ESPN bet was 14.5.
Yeah. It's like 13, 14 most places. I know Sober probably counts for a point or 2, but it's still a lot. I think UConn wins this thing probably by like 7 or 8. Like again, you go back to this team. Like for 5 minutes, they look like they could be a national championship team, and then the next 5 minutes, they could look like they belong. They don't even belong in the tournament. So, I would hope they're winning at half. It'd be the first time since November that they've done that at home. That would be nice.
That's crazy. I said that right before the show to you. Are they going to be winning at halftime tonight? That's the big question because they haven't since the Maryland East Shore game in November.
Yeah, but again, that would be a step in the right direction. So hopefully they win at halftime. Hopefully they don't go down 14 at home tonight. But I think Georgetown keeps it close. Micah Peavy's, he's been really good on both ends of the floor. Georgetown does not have much of a bench at all. And the one thing is too, which helps UConn out. Now UConn does hack a lot, but Georgetown is like 322nd in getting to the free throw line. Like they're not great at that. So They did 223 the first time against UConn, so they could get to the line tonight, but they're not totally great at it. So Georgetown doesn't have much of a bench, so if you kind of keep the starters in check there, you should be okay. I do think they find a way to win, but I do think it's going to be somewhat close. Like again, they haven't been on cruise control in a game since New Year's Day against DePaul, so it's been a while, and I do think Georgetown hangs around there.
I think they do. I think they hang around tonight, but eventually I think UConn pulls it out. We'll wrap up, though, talking about the definition of a trap game, and that's Saturday at Providence. And Providence got beat by 30. They're under 500. They got beat by 30 last night. But the Dunkin' Donuts Center has been a house of horrors for UConn for years. It was a house of horrors for UConn back in the Jim Calhoun days. UConn lost to them in 2023 at the Dunk. They did win last year, but last year's team was outstanding. So the Dunk has been a house of horrors for UConn, and let's not forget Providence played them tough at Stores in January. So and Pierre had a huge game, and I think this game is going to be the same thing, man. I think it's going to be a very close game at the Dunk. That crowd, it's like Seton Hall. This is their national champion. And it's even more for Providence. This is their the Dunk. You think that your sister goes to Providence? You think is the Dunk gonna be packed on Saturday?
Oh, it will be. They don't like UConn. Their two biggest games of the year are Georgetown and UConn. So they will be into it.
This is to me, this is their national champ. Yeah, they don't like Georgetown because they had Cooley, but this is their national championship game here. They are going to be pumped at noon because they're not going. This Providence team is bad. This is a bad Providence team. I mean, Kim English. I'm surprised he's not in trouble. This Providence team is really bad. So, but they're going to play tough. They're going to play this game hard. I think they're going to play this game hard. I think UConn's going to struggle. It's I think this is definitely the most. I mean, we're not comparing, the team to Creighton or Marquette, but I think this is the toughest environment UConn's going to be all year. So I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. It always is the toughest environment. This is always the most hostile crowd they have to face in the Big East. So I think it's going to be a close, competitive game. But I just think UConn has more. I could see them losing, especially this team, because it's a house of horrors. But I just don't think Providence is good. And I think UConn wins it close. I think they win it close on Saturday afternoon in Providence.
Yeah, UConn's lost the worst Providence team to this one, as you mentioned. Yeah, Jim Calhoun. It was in the mid '90s. I want to say, is it '95? They've lost to a worse Providence team than this year's. Providence always been a tricky one for them, and I do think Providence probably beats them Saturday. I
wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Honestly. It's the definition of a trap game. Going there is going to be the definition of a trap game on Saturday.
Yeah, and I think KenPom's got this 3, I believe it is. Actually, I didn't check this after the blowout. Maybe it's like 4 now. They're small. They're going to be small favorite. And look, after the way they got spanked last night, and that team kind of was going through the motions, I have to imagine that it's gonna be a wake up call. I would think.
UConn can't come out like they did against Seton Hall. They got to be ready to play this game. They got to be ready to play this game because if they're not, they're gonna get beat. They're gonna get beat because this is their championship. This is what the Providence fans live for. As you said, beating 2 teams, Ed Cooley and Georgetown, and beating UConn.
Yeah, it is. And tonight's one of the few nights, one of the 2 nights a year that they actually cheer for UConn. Obviously, that's playing Georgetown. So
they usually cheer for them. When Cooley was the coach, they didn't. But now, because Ed Cooley's the Georgetown coach, this is one of the 2 nights they root for UConn. Yes. Yeah. Because they're like the little brother. They're like the little brother to UConn.
Yep, they always have been, but they've given UConn trouble over the years. So yeah, it's gonna be a tough one. Again, Providence banged up. They've been banged up all year. It's a team too that they don't value the basketball either like UConn. So there could be 40+ turnovers in this game. It could be a sloppy basketball game in those terms. But yeah, English is saved because they gave him. He's making close to $6 million after last year because his people got him that contract of trying to get the USC job. So,
they made that run the Big East tournament last year too.
Yeah, that helped. The NIT, I think they went 6 guys. So I could have saw that team making a run if they didn't. If they had more than 6 guys to go for the NIT. But yeah, I think it'd be a tough one. Again, I just the way Providence played last night, I have to imagine they're going to show up, and they're not. If you kind of goes up 12-2, maybe you get them to lie down and quit. That's certainly possible. But I don't see that this team's not capable of doing that. Or we haven't seen it. So that's what worries me. I think Providence keeps it close. I could see Corey Floyd having a pretty good game. Jaden Pierre, he's been struggling of late, but I know it's been a bad year for Providence, but this is definitely a night they show up, and I just have a bad feeling on Saturday, and I do think I do think Providence gets them on Saturday, and it's probably like a close game, but I see Providence at home just find a way to that fan base willing them, find a way to help them get that win Saturday.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I wouldn't be surprised at all if the Friars pull off the upset on Saturday afternoon. But that's going to wrap it up this week on Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We'll be back next week talking about the franchise tag deadline in the NFL. UConn's big matchup with Marquette and Stores on it's not senior day. It'll be Seton Hall, but their big matchup with Marquette and Stores, and any NBA news that comes our way. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Hello, my name is Joe Aguirre. I'm the president of Clovercrest Media Group, and here at CMG we have a wide variety of podcasts, including sports shows like Keys to the City, The Roll Call, Throwing Jabs, All Four Downs, and Jawing About the G-Men, and great true crime shows like Sticky Week, Crimes and Consequences, Ivy League Murders, and Burn, the unsolved murder of David Eichmann. You can find all these podcasts and so much more by visiting clovercrestmedia.com.